What's up, everybody? And today we reacted to SCP-001, The Scarlet King. This is by SCP Explained Story and Animation. As per usual, these guys are amazing at making videos. They're very informative, and the animation's so cool. I really like them. I guess, are we reacting to like a weekly SCP video? Is that what we're doing now? I guess that's the thing on the channel. But before we get started, as per usual, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't do this every single day if it wasn't for you, members. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. Links down below to all the usual stuff: Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But for now, let's watch some SCP-001. Let's find out more about this Scarlet King.
The SCP Foundation is no stranger to pure evil. Whether it's a reptile that wants
This is a different voice than they usually have.
to end all life, a sadistic old man with his own torture dimension, or the personification of death itself lurking beyond a limestone cavern.
That dude was creepy AF. That old man one was by far the creepiest one I've reacted to so far.
But what if there was something even worse out there? The embodiment of chaos and cruelty, existing across multiple realities and dimensions. And what if it was coming for us?
Ooh.
This is the Scarlet King, believed by many to be the ultimate evil behind much of the trouble the Foundation has faced, and some even speculate that fighting him was the reason the Foundation was created in the first place. But what exactly is the Scarlet King? He's known by many names, almost always including some allusion to the color red, and then a reference to royalty or power. Harak, Kaharak, the Red Shah, the Crimson Khan, PTE 616 Mendez Ex Machina, the Laha Raja, and, of course, SCP-001, to name a few.
I like how they do. This is the thing with SCP that I really like about it is they pull out this story of these monsters, right? And then they use real world elements to kind of make it more realistic. And I've gone over this before. It's kind of like a mythology, kind of like what's he called? Who did the Cthulhu and all that lot? I forgot his name. Damn it! Where's his book? H.P. Lovecraft, that's what I'm talking about. It's kind of like him, where he uses kind of real world elements to make it seem more real, and they make it more of a mythology than just a story, and I like that. And again, they're doing that right now. They're kind of implementing kind of real world ideas, like, oh, it's all these different people go by different names, and these are all the different names that people go by depending on who you are and where you come from, and I like that. I like that a lot. It adds to the mystery.
Like many of the Foundation's mysterious enemies, stories about his true nature and origins abound and are often contradictory. According to the official SCP-001 files of Tufto's proposal, symbology of the Scarlet King has existed in multiple cultures throughout history, with the king often depicted the same way, as a huge red demonic figure, often wearing a gold crown or other headdress indicating royalty. He shows up looking similarly within different cultures' mythologies, despite existing at different points in history or them not having the means to communicate with one another. A number of entities that the SCP Foundation is familiar with are believed to be somehow connected to the Scarlet King, including SCP-2317, a wooden door leading to the realm of a being known as the Devourer, who's expected to escape and cause an apocalyptic event in the next 30 years. But really, there's no way of knowing just how many SCPs are directly connected to the Scarlet King.
I think they should really make like a movie or a TV show out of this. Like, I really do. I think it would be really cool. The fact that they haven't done this already, and there's so much background, there's so much lore behind it. The fact that they haven't made movies on it yet it's kind of ridiculous. What's going on, Universal? Some big company pick this up and make some movies.
Strangely, the Foundation's official file on the Scarlet King once designated his containment class as Keter, but that has since been downgraded to Safe. According to the file, any attempt to change this designation is likely to lead to horrifying results. It is widely known that the Scarlet King still has considerable influence over a number of groups, individuals, and anomalies in our universe. and if ever he made his way into our universe.
Was that the dude who guards the gate? That was another SCP, right? Like a giant, like, weird night angel figure that guards a giant doorway, bowing down to him.
It would likely lead to the irreversible damage of reality itself. So then why safe? And why are the O5 Council so adamant that it remain that way? Getting to the bottom of this mystery is exactly why we're here today. But to fully grasp the true nature of the Scarlet King, we must first understand the man whose life and fate have always been tied to it, Dr. Robert Montauk. If that name feels oddly familiar to you, it
doesn't.
Because of its association with one of the Scarlet King's most recent attempts to enter our reality, SCP-231. This SCP, often referred to as the Brides of the Scarlet King, was formed of 7 women. 7, by the way, being an extremely significant number for the king, all kidnapped by the most recent in a long line of the king's devoted cults known as the Children of the Scarlet King.
It seems like they always try, like, they always use like this devil figure from Christian kind of belief to make it look evil. And the more I've looked into mythology, because I got obsessed with Assassin's Creed Valhalla and looked into a bunch of like old mythology, is the depiction of the devil is developed from pagan beliefs to make it scary, when in pagan beliefs it weren't scary. We watched a video on it, didn't we? And people use this like kind of horned figure as like evil when it didn't used to be evil, and I feel like they're going for that, but then they're also saying it's a crown, so maybe not.
Each of these 7 unfortunate women were impregnated with anomalous horrors, such as the infamous SCP-682, and every time one of these horrors were birthed, a catastrophe occurred and the mother died. At the time, Dr. Montauk was a prominent researcher studying this anomaly, and as 6 catastrophes had already occurred, pressure was mounting to figure out a way to prevent the final birth. But as he was working on the issue, Dr. Montauk was struck with a personal tragedy, the mysterious disappearance of his 14-year-old brother Jacob. In his fear and anger, Montauk believed that this must have something to do with the Scarlet King and his disciples. Wanting revenge, Montauk proposed an idea so horrifying that the details were never made public. A procedure known as 110 Montauk, to be performed on the final bride at regular intervals. However, this wasn't the end of Dr. Montauk's fraught relationship with the Scarlet King. It was just the beginning.
I like how it's just a random doctor, it's just like, I'm gonna have this feud with this devil kind of king from another dimension.
Give you some perspective on just how dangerous the Scarlet King is. The SCP Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition decided to put aside their differences and form a joint effort to stamp out the children of the Scarlet King. They were successful in this mission, and even managed to capture the children's leader, a mysterious man named Depeche Spivak. Dr. Montauk, who became the lead researcher on 231 and 2317, was naturally the first choice for interviewing Depeche about the true nature of the children and of the Scarlet King. Dr. Montauk could never be the impartial interviewer that the SCP Foundation wanted, though. The suspicion that the Scarlet King or the children had something to do with the loss of his younger brother still lingered just beneath the surface.
That's heartbreaking.
Like a lot of
That's actually really sad. That's really, really sad.
Cult leaders, Depeche was extremely cryptic in his answers to Dr. Montauk's questioning. He'd already heard of the doctor from the reputation of the horrifying Montauk procedure, and was surprised to see him so calm and courteous in person. A few key facts about the king and his cult were revealed in the first few rounds of questioning. The children had once worked with the Serpent's Hand before being excommunicated for their allegiance to the king, and they had stolen sacred texts from the mystical Wanderer's Library to assist in their summoning rituals. Depeche also revealed that the Scarlet King is bound by 3 laws.
It seems like with this one, I don't know whether it's because it's supposed to be SCP-001, which we've looked at a video where there's a lot of SCP-001s, so it might not be the original one. But it seems with this one, they're really going all out to show that this is kind of the defining figure in these SCPs, like the thing that kind of rules most of it, and maybe is controlling a lot of it. And I like that because it's so big, other things, other SCPs are stemming from it. So like this occults and all these different aspects that stem from this, because it's so big. And I think that this might be the one that's kind of the most prevalent among most SCPs, and I don't know whether you guys will agree with me with that one, that this seems like the most important one. And that might be why they're calling it 001, but we've seen that there's plenty of 001, so I don't know where I fall with this one. Is it the most important? Is it not?
The law of blood, the law of concrete, and the law of howling. Dr. Montauk, confused and frustrated by Depesh's secrecy, had to learn more. He found an old memoir from a former member of the Children of the Scarlet King, Jack Hirsch, who had the ability to invade the minds of people from the past and experience what they experienced. He recounted a battle between the Scarlet King and his followers, and a group of time-traveling Turkmen warriors from SCP-3838.
What?
Hurst saw both sides of the battle. From the perspective of the Children of the Scarlet King, their lord ruled over them from an immense fortress embedded in a volcano. From the perspective of the Turkmen, the children were starved and beaten peasants, commanded by the king's voice in the roaring howl of the wind. Montauk also found extensive records of summoning rituals performed by various Scarlet King-aligned cults.
I love how the further this video gets, the more this guy finds out, the more like crap he looks. Like he's getting bags under his eyes, his hair's going crazy. Like the further and further we go on. I get it, mate. That's hilarious.
Interestingly, some of them incorporated the use of carved SCP Foundation symbols. What could this mean? Montauk returned again to Depeche, who finally gave him the truth about the law of blood. This is the law of the Scarlet King. It's defined by poverty, violence, starvation, hate, and most of all, fear. Like the serfs in the Middle Ages, persecuted by and subjected to violence from the nobles. To the Children of the Scarlet King, this sense of holy pain and awe is the only way to live. The alternative is the law of concrete.
I said in a previous videos about occults and if they're even real and stuff, and a lot of people commented saying that there's a lot of occults out there and they're really dangerous, and I found that kind of fascinating, I'm not gonna lie.
Which means the modern age, defined by empty safety and false comfort. Buildings, easy to access food, healthcare, knowledge, technology. This is everything that the Scarlet King despises. But the mystery only deepened as Montauk found files from a former Foundation operative by the name of Agent de Beauvoir. Montauk learned that the Scarlet King didn't seem to appear until after the Foundation was created. And in fact, it seemed that the greater interest the Foundation took in the Scarlet King, the more powerful he became. How could this be? Things were also getting stranger on a personal level for Dr. Montauk. Depeche repeatedly pressed him about his brother's disappearance and the Montauk procedure during the interviews. Little by little, it was beginning to take its toll. The questions...
That's weird. So maybe the SCP created it because the more they talk about it and acknowledge it, the stronger it gets. Interesting.
Still plagued him. What was the law of howling? Who or what really is the Scarlet King? How did he come to be? Montauk's search was causing him to act more like the Children of the Scarlet King, ranting about the horrors of the modern world, how all of us are living a lie, how the only honest way to live is suffering under the dominion of the Scarlet King. This philosophy is summed up in the words of one cultist named Ariadne Cartwright, who said, "We must learn what it is to die, to be enslaved, truly, brutally enslaved, with no compassion or compunction from our masters. We must learn what it is to be taken towards a single purpose."
I don't want to learn that. I don't want to learn what it's like to be enslaved. No, thank you. I'm happy. I'm content. Happy. Don't want to be enslaved.
To know and truly understand our lack of agency, we must be beholden to the words of gods and darkness, the tempest-tossed refuse of a race of fools. We must kill modernity, postmodernity, with all its analysis and sneering observation. There is only one rule, the rule of chaos, for humanity, for life, for the Scarlet King. Basically, anytime humanity tries to exert control over the world, the Scarlet King gets stronger. Every time they try to understand or organize or categorize their world, the Scarlet King gets stronger. As colonial and imperial powers conquered and invaded lands like India, Africa, and South America, and subjugated their beliefs under Western ideas, the Scarlet King grew stronger. Montauk was beginning to truly
So is it just an idea then? Is Scarlet King just an idea? Because the more they've conquered, the people have conquered the world, the more the Western civilizations like took over, the more it's grown. So is it just an idea that people have brought with them? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
understand the power of his enemy here. And even worse, he was starting to understand his part in it. Montauk, slowly being driven mad by the knowledge he was gaining, realized that the Scarlet King's greatest enemy, the SCP Foundation, was also its greatest asset. Every time they tried to understand the monster, to give him some kind of comprehensible form, they only made him more powerful. Just in time with Montauk's new revelation, a red crack appeared in the wall of Depeche Spivak's containment cell, a portal to the realm of the Scarlet King. Foundation staff found
It seems like the more it's acknowledged, the stronger it gets, so they should just lock it away and never talk about it again. That's probably the best way to do it, right?
they were unable to enter the cell, and Depeche demanded a final interview with Montauk. With no other options, the Foundation relented. In their very last conversation, Depeche congratulated Montauk for finally understanding what he was dealing with. The Scarlet King, Depeche told him, is an idea, a concept.
I said it, it's an idea. It's an idea, I got it right.
He is a being given power through the conflict between the old and the new. This is the law of the Howling. The Scarlet King's endless rage at the direction the world and humanity has taken. The King, according to Depeche, hated the Foundation's belief that science and rationality was the true path to progress. The King saw this as little more than petty arrogance. The reason Montauk's procedure on the final bride of the Scarlet King was so effective was because it wasn't born out of science. It was born out of hate, pain, the desire for revenge. And in the Scarlet King's realm, that would be all there is. Unless our world, and especially the Foundation, changed its course, the Scarlet King's rise to absolute power would be inevitable. Montauk, his mind practically gone, asked one last question. Did the children or the Scarlet King take his brother, Jacob? When Depeche told him the answer, no. And in response, Montauk shot him dead, finally bringing an end to the children of the Scarlet King. In light of his new revelations, Montauk begged the O5 Council to change their ways in order to avoid letting the Scarlet King break into our reality. They refused, saying Montauk's ideas were too radical.
I want to know more about these dudes. These weird people that, like, have control over the SCP. If there's a video about these people, let me know in the comments down below, because I would definitely like to watch that.
But they knew they couldn't just ignore the threat posed by the Scarlet King. They would have to take some steps. And so the O5 Council of the SCP Foundation, the most powerful and secretive group in the entire world, in order to prevent the most dangerous threat that humanity has ever known from breaking into our reality and enslaving all the people of the world, finally did something. They changed the classification of the Scarlet King from Keter to Safe, and made its description on the official Foundation files deliberately vague. The O5 Council thinks this will be enough to stop the Scarlet King's power from continuing to grow, but Montauk knew it wasn't enough. He had seen the truth, and he couldn't unsee it. While the Foundation was going...
What? Why is Garfield in here? What am I missing here, guys? What am I watching here? What is this?
The Foundation was going on as normal. Montauk grew to despise them. He knew the Scarlet King was coming. He knew that he couldn't be stopped, and that our whole reality was little more than sitting ducks. Dr. Robert Montauk is no longer a researcher for the SCP Foundation. No, Dr. Robert Montauk chose a different path. He's now a child of the Scarlet King, a devotee of madness, hate, and chaos. You can't beat the Scarlet King after all, and as the old adage goes, if you can't beat him, join him. Now go watch SCP.
Alright, that was interesting. That was interesting. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Please go and share some love, because they obviously make some incredible videos. I find it interesting that this Scarlet King is an idea and a concept that it makes sense. That's why I kind of guessed it. Is that the bigger like civilization gets, and the more they worry about this thing, the more it grows, and the more people know about it, the more it grows. So it's an idea, it's a concept that grows with people, basically, and the worry and the anger and the destruction. A very unique concept, a very unique idea. I like it. It seems very much like again, like going back to like mythology and stuff. SCP takes a lot from regular mythology, and it seems like, you know, like the more like, just like a lot of religions, like the more people kind of know about the devil or whatever, the more people worry about it. Does that make sense? And the bigger it gets. And again, they've taken a lot of aspects from like pagan beliefs again, which they seem to do a lot with these ones, especially with like occults and all that nonsense, which is fascinating. It's fascinating. If you've got any more recommendations along them lines, I love it, guys. I love this stuff. I could react to it all day. I really could. But before you leave, as per usual, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Links down below to all the usual stuff: Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Yeah, if you've got recommendations, guys, leave them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to react to some more SCPs or anything kind of like it, or even some more Warhammer videos. I really like them as well. Yeah, until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.